All right. I promised another game tonight, and I wasn't joking. Let's do this. Back in a match with Mr. Knobgobbler. You might have remembered him from a couple of days ago. He's been working on a very, very potent mono-blue Urza deck, which can be incredibly problematic if it draws fast mana. It just applies so much pressure. It has all the blue tools. And often it's one of those decks that can kind of combo off in a way and almost ignore the opponent's game, which means that it overcomes a lot of the basic blue mono blue deficits. It's kind of the same thing that the old Baral deck did for a while in the 1v1 commander format, back when you could play with polymorph effects and Emrakul, the Promised End, because the Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn, the giant 15/15 Annihilator one, because you could kind of play mono blue and it didn't really matter what they did. All you had to do was just force spike the first few turns, cast your commander, cycle a few cards, and then transmute your commander into an unstoppable 15/15 monster and just kill him instantly. And that sort of circumvents all of the problems that are endemic in mono blue, the kind of problems that you'll see crop up when you play a deck like Azami, which is trying to play a much more slow and grindy game. So Urza can definitely do that, and this deck is a challenge to play against, especially with Nin, where I just lack tools to deal with stuff, particularly fast starts. So here we go. This is actually game one of a 3-game match that we just played, within the last hour or so. And I'm actually going to be combining games 1 and 2 from the match. You'll see why in a little bit. So let's kick this off. Here we go. Yes, I would like to go first. So there is Mr. Urza right there. Oops, I closed the graveyard. What is this thing? Okay. Apologies, I'm just trying to close this. I don't know why there's two things there. Oh well, doesn't really matter. So you can see the commanders there. We've got Nin and Urza. I don't know what this column is right here, to be honest. I can't get it to close, but I guess it doesn't really matter. Okay, so awesome start here. I've got turn 1 Baral or turn 1 Jason the Mind Sculptor, or not Jason the Mind Sculptor, turn 1 Nin, depending on how it looks. Also have Mana Vault to accelerate out a big activation with Nin the Pain Artist. So barring him having a really, really ridiculous start, I'm pretty confident right at the get-go, because these Brawl, he probably doesn't play with any way to deal with Brawl, and the ability to play the 1-mana counters, 1-mana impulses and stuff is really insane. So very happy to see this opening hand, particularly with 2 land. I'm going to lead with Island as the Sulphur Falls comes into play tapped, if I lead with that. And I decide I'm just going to play Brawl. There's no real reason to play Nin that I can see. I need more mana in play. So it's a very, very good opener. And he's running so few land, apparently, he can't even actually really get away with playing with Mox Diamond. So that's one advantage to my deck. I think I'm running 33 in my current version, which is a lot for a mono blue deck with a million artifacts in it. So he plays turn 1 Workshop. It's very problematic. A lot of horrible things that could come from that, like Vidalcan Shackles on turn 1. And then he plays Mana Vault. The problems are compounding very rapidly. And then Arcane Signet. Okay. Holy shit, what a beginning. Turn 1 Karn. Lord. Well, he did kind of go all in on this play, at least, in that he only has 1 source of blue mana and doesn't have the Mana Vault. So, I'm actually kind of hoping he does this play, which is to make a token. It does make a 3/3 for free, but at the same time, given the way that his mana is, there's reasonable possibility he doesn't have a bunch more islands because of how low his deck is in land, and that means that I don't have to face Urza for a while, and I'd much rather face a couple of Karn tokens than an Urza, although the damage can add up really, really quickly. Karn is just really ridiculous on turn 1, so his start definitely better than my turn 1 Baral, which feels downright humble by comparison. There's Condescend, perfect example of why Baral is so amazing. Being able to condescend for 1 blue and actually power sync for 1 can be critical. It's like a force spike with Scry 2 attached. It's pretty incredible. I'm going to impulse and just hope to get land here. And the good news is there's 3 land on top of my deck, and the bad news is the card that I absolutely want in my hand right now, the Cyclonic Rift, is also in the top 3. And I did give some momentary thought to keeping one of these lands. And, I don't know, using the Condescend, maybe playing Mana Vault and potentially Condescending the next turn. But I can't attack Karn, and Karn can make another token, which means I'd be facing 2 4/4s starting to attack me on turn 3. And under that kind of pressure, I realize I just don't think that my prospects of winning the game are going to be there. So regretfully, I have to tuck all 3 of these other lands and keep the Rift, because I can at least, thanks to Baral, bounce Karn back to his hand and mitigate the damage somewhat. He'll probably be back in a couple turns. I just have no idea how many more islands he has in hand. And my hope is that he doesn't have another big mana artifact in hand. Like if he has a Thran Dynamo or Gilded Lotus or something, then I'm going to have to deal with Karn in a turn. But at least this buys me 1 turn reprieve. Not ideal, but you do what you can. All right, 3 mana, Workshop. Okay, Sorcerer Spyglass. Well, normally I'm pretty unhappy to see this card because it shuts down my commander completely, but given the fact that that doesn't make mana, pretty much a relief. And keep in mind with Urza, because it's so degenerate, all these random goofy artifacts like the Constructs and the Spyglass all make blue mana when you need them to. It's just so broken. Urza was definitely one of those, I think one of those legendary creatures that was made without commander in mind. And even though it was printed very recently, just the fact that you always have it on demand and it makes all your mana art or all your non-mana artifacts make blue mana is really, really insane. But I'm going to take 4 here. Don't really have much of a choice. And now really all I have to do is draw land. Come on, land. Actually, the best card would be Dak Faden, because then I could steal the Arcane Signet. All right, that's a land. Just not really the ideal one. But it does allow me to play Mana Vault and keep mana back for Condescend. Unfortunately, unless I tap the Mana Vault, I can't Snapcaster Mage and Cyclonic Rift away the Construct, because, of course, the Snapcaster costs 2, even though I have Brawl in play. It feels wrong, but that's the way it works. All right, he's taking 1. And I'm just getting pounded for 4 here. And I just can't take the risk that he has a mana artifact. I need at least 1 turn to see if he goes for it and activate my Condescend before I even consider playing Nin. And I know that he's got the Spyglass in play to shut down Nin, but I don't really have a long-term game plan that involves not activating Nin. So at some point in time, I'll probably use Snapcaster and at least bounce the Spyglass, untap, and get 1 Nin activation off before he shuts me down again. All right. Oh, Mana Crypt. Oh my God, such a perfect card. I mean, a land would have been just about as good, or maybe, I think actually the best card I could have drawn was Lotus, but or Gilded Lotus, but Mana Crypt is incredible. And I decide that because he missed a land drop last turn, I'm going to take this little window to play the Nin the Pain Artist, and just hope he doesn't draw another blue mana source. Come on, baby. All right, takes another 1. Don't punish me. Don't punish me. Ugh, always punished tonight. Polluted Delta off the top. Okay, well, it depends on what he's going to do with it. I mean, his deck does play a fair amount of counters. I've seen a lot of counters, all the good cheap counters. I don't know how many of the cheapest counters he's playing, the 1 mana ones like Spell Pierce, Mental Misstep, Force Spike and stuff, but he certainly has all the good 2 mana ones and of course the free ones as well. So I'm thinking he might just pass here and just make me deal with the pressure of the Construct, which is going to be problematic to do. I might, I might actually do something crazy like run out the Snapcaster Mage, Impulse, and then triple block the Construct to kill it off. I would lose Baral and Snapcaster in the process, but it would at least stop the pressure and give me time to rebuild here. And then he casts Transmute Artifact. Oh my God. Okay, well, he doesn't have any extra mana available, and you can't use Workshop to pay the extra cost on Transmute. So it's only 1 mana. That means he just has to get Soul Ring or Crypt, really. And it's probably just going to be Soul Ring. Of course, he's sacking Mana Vault. So yeah, now there's Urza waiting in the wings. At least I do have Condescend. But I'm starting to feel the pressure of the Construct. It's tick-tock, tick-tock right now. All right. And I've got my own Mana Crypt that I'm going to have to contend with. I don't take 3 there. And right off the top, I draw Vandal Blast. Wow. Well, not Vandal Blast yet. I draw Mystical Tutor. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. Whew. So timely. I mean, I could have drawn Merchant Scroll. I could draw Muddle the Mixture into Merchant Scroll. Or I mean into Muddle the Mixture into Merchant Scroll into something, but this is, or into Mystical Tutor, but this is pretty damn good. Okay. All right. It's just really going to come down to this turn. Does he just try to slam Urza down there? I see him tap his Workshop to play a Medallion, and that's kind of delicious given the fact of what I'm setting up here. And then this is a long turn, and he slow rolls me so hard here. Taps his mana, untaps it, thinks for a long time, taps, untaps. And I'm thinking, God, please just cast Urza or Karn right now, because I can condescend safely. I get to fine-tune, I get to fine-tune the top of my deck, and then I'm going to Mystical Tutor, and I'm going to be able to Vandal Blast with Snapcaster Condescend, probably as a backup. Oh my God, it'll be so amazing. And then he doesn't do anything. He just smashes me for 5. And he passes the turn. Okay, well, end of turn. I'm just going to do this play. This is just a bait play. And my intention here is actually to get Cyclonic Rift to just bounce the construct, hoping that he'll take the bait. And he taps some mana, and he remans. Interesting. I'm not sure why he taps Soul Ring there. I think he forgot about Sapphire Medallion, but probably doesn't matter. And that puts it back in my hand, which is fine. And now I've got to just gamble that he doesn't have something like, I guess there isn't really much he could have outside of something like Force of Negation or Force of Will, because a Force Spike I can pay for, and I guess Memory Lapse would be the one thing, but a Memory Lapse or a Mana Leak. I do have Mana Vault available, so I can pay for Mana Leak. And here we go. Mystical Tutor. Deliver me, Vandal Blast. Blasting. And of course, I'm using the Mana Vault here so that I've got blue mana available. Boom. So delicious. 5 artifacts destroyed, and the construct dead as well. It's just so incredibly powerful against good draws. The scaling power of this card is just peerless. It's so unbelievably strong. Love it. All right. Now he's just got a single island. I don't have to worry about Karn. I don't have to worry about Urza. It just feels like just smooth sailing here. But then he plays Halimar Depths, which is almost certainly going to get him more land. It's interesting. I think he's playing this card. I normally wouldn't advocate for it, but I think he's using it just because he is playing such a low land count. He needs to be able to dig with 1 land hands, so it does make sense to use it. I now have the ability to start shooting Baral in this little lull that we've got here. I do have the Mana Crypt ticking, which is a little bit alarming. Okay, so we moved into bug game territory. This was not an island. Obviously, if this had been an island, I would have played it. I don't recall what this is, but I'm going to try to narrate the game as best I can. Let's see here. I think that this was like a mana artifact of some, or this was a mana artifact of some sort. Goes back to his turn. At the end of his turn, I shoot the Baral for 2. Yeah, I did not draw these 2. I just drew some more mana artifacts, like an Arcane Signet. Anyway, you see what I'm doing here. So I attack here, and I believe on his turn he actually... well, let's see what happens over here. I'm down to 5. Yeah, I think it's gonna stall here permanently. Yeah, I definitely did not play Expedition Map. Anyway, goes back to his turn, and he didn't do anything. I had a bunch of mana in play, and I drew, after I shot Baral a second time, I untapped and I drew Amnesia. And I had enough mana to Amnesia and Condescend substantially. I think he had just played as Urza, and I took his entire hand away. 5 cards, including Pact of Negation, Spellskite, Karn, the Karn, the 4-mana Karn that he started with at the beginning of the game, and reduced it down to 0 cards. And though he had, I was at 5 with Mana Crypt in play, I do have Mystical Tutor in my graveyard, and I had the ability to... Oh, that's right. I remember what happened. Okay, so... That's right. I drew Cryptic Command in here, actually. That was the card that I drew. I drew a Cryptic Command, and then I drew an Arcane Signet. And on his turn, he played his Urza. I countered Urza, and I used Cryptic Command to bounce my Mana Vault back to my hand, actually, so that I didn't have to worry about untapping it because of the damage that was piling up. And then I drew into the Amnesia off the Baral draw. Amnesia his whole hand away, and won the game in short order after that. So very, very satisfying to win that game after that completely nuts start from him. Not that my start was bad, but it was clearly trumped by the turn 1 Karn. And yeah, able to put it together. Vandal Blast gets the job done against these crazy artifact decks. I'm going to go jump over to game 2 while this video is still playing, so stay tuned for that. Don't go anywhere. All right. I think I can keep the... Mr. Noggaller, there's game 2. Let me just go and resize this. stick it into the frame. All right, should be no problem. All right, I've got, I mean, it's not a bad hand. It's got mana, it's got early interaction. It's not bad at all. It's just one of those hands that's completely is going to be overrun by fast mana if he draws fast mana. And as I mentioned before, I've been cursed lately. I just have like this curse that allows my opponent to draw these artifacts against me continuously, like at least half the games. And lo and behold, turn 1 Mana Crypt. Yeah, Urza's like the best commander in the entire format if you draw Mana Crypt or Soul Ring in your opening hand. It's just completely unbeatable. And he has Psy Master Thopters to go with it. Yeah, I don't even have anything in play. That seems fair. All right, well, I drew Grim Monolith, and I do have Metamorph to catch up. The problem is that his guy can just come down next turn, and he's like already got a billion mana and big constructs coming. It's just so gross. And then he plays Gemstone Caverns, and he mentioned that he had subbed this out for an island, I guess maybe in his like online list. I think, and when I say online, like the actual written out list. But yeah, I got to agree with that. I think Gemstone Caverns is super decadent, particularly when you are playing with so few land in the first place. I mean, you're just assuming ideal scenarios, and there's lots of times where like imagine if he has an island here. He just like plays Urza when I have 1 land in play, and I pretty much just lose the game instantly. But instead, he has to play a Sapphire Medallion, which isn't the worst thing in the world. But when he's going to get a second island might be a long time. Copy Artifact. All right, I was actually about to do a Metamorph into Monolith into Metamorph on the Mana Crypt play, but then I draw Copy Artifact, and that's a lot easier to do. So I cast Copy Artifact. Unfortunately, he has Remand for 1 blue, so the chances of him drawing more artifacts or more or second island go way up now. Cast Preordain. Still no lands. He probes me. Still no islands. And he casts Howling Mine. Very interesting card to see in his deck, but I get why he's playing it because it's super insane combo with Urza. And yeah, and it gets another Thopter too, so the pressure's increasing bit by bit. I got time though. Maybe this mine will actually deliver me out of this nightmare, given the fact that he doesn't have 2 blue yet. But I really gotta draw something that's cheap and interactive right now. Damn it! All right, just more lands. So I play the Bloodstained Mire. That's gonna go fetch Volcanic Island. I'm just doing this to thin, and there's a lot of choices here. I could go back and do that play again. I could go Copy Artifact on Mana Crypt, tap the Mana Crypt, cast Grim Monolith. That would leave, and maybe even cast, tap the Grim Monolith, cast Metamorph on Psy to get something going on. But the problem is that I gotta just assume that he has Urza next turn, and with all of these Thopters and Howling Mine and everything else, it's like I cannot let Urza resolve. I can't win this game if Urza gets in play. It's basically impossible, because he'll just have an endless stream of these Thopters. He'll get tons of counter magic. He'll be able to shut down the Howling Mine. Like, there's just nothing I can do. And so despite the fact that I've got all of these cards to get mana into play, I've just reached that stage of the game where I can do nothing more than just turtle and hope that he just doesn't draw islands for about 80 turns. And nothing else of consequence either, just maybe some 2 blue mana counter spells. Happy to throw away the mountain anyway, it sucks. So he draws a second land. Psy is also very good with Howling Mine. I wonder if he's playing that 3 mana thing that allows you to play artifacts from the graveyard. Probably not, because he doesn't really have a lot of things to put it in the graveyard. I only take 3. Notice he still does not have 2 blue this late. He's 15 cards down now. So he casts Grim Monolith. And I'm wondering, when he plays this, I'm thinking whether or not I'm being baited, because he hasn't played a land yet. He did attack, but because of Sapphire Medallion, he could follow up with Island Urza here. And if I take the bait, I get punished. But I decide that I just can't afford to have him have that much more mana in play. And I have to just take the risk that he does not have a second island and keep that thing out of play, because it's just too much mana. Can do too many crazy things. And then he follows up with Pithing Needle, which I'm sad about because it makes another Thopter. But I don't know. I mean, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't make mana yet. But look at all these artifacts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If he were to cast Urza, Urza would make a net of 3 blue mana. It's so stupid. What a dumb card. All right. Ponder. All right. I think we moved into bug game territory here. Yeah, so I play Copy Artifact. I'm going to copy the Crypt. I'm going to play that, and I'm going to do this play where I play Metamorph and I copy the Psi. This allows my Stoic Rebuttal to turn on, and I now have Metalcraft. Oh, that's right. One of these cards was Mox Opal. I think it was Ponder or Trinket Mage, and I actually played. You see it like asking me to pay a blue mana, which is obviously broken. That's what this card is. I played a stupid Mox Opal for 0. The interface wants to put it into play because it knows that I did somewhere in its dumb, like, addled brain. However, it knows that Ponder costs blue, so it's asking me to pay a blue mana for a 0 mana artifact, because that's not what that is. But I do play the Mox Opal. That turns on Metalcraft, and I get a Thopter, and he attacks me, and I think for a little while about blocking the Thopter and then sacking probably the Grim Monolith plus the Thopter to continue to draw, because the only way I'm getting out of this game, really, the only way I'm recovering, given the fact that Nin is shut off, is if I draw into Vandal Blast. I mean, that's basically it. Rift won't even solve the problem because there's just so much cheap stuff here. I mean, it'll kill a few Thopters, but they'll be back in short order. And yeah, that's sort of how the game plays out. We go for a few more turns. He just continues to build up Thopters. As I struggle and continue to draw lands, he does the right thing a few turns later, and he sacks his Howling Mine in order to draw a card and to shut off my ability to draw 2, because he recognizes that I'm in a vulnerable position, and that the only way I can probably dig out of it is by drawing 2, since I can't use Nin. I get a ton of mana in play, but I can't use Nin the Bane Artist. And eventually he gets Umezawa's Jitte out, and he throws Jitte on the Thopter, and I get one more final turn to draw something, and it's Into the Royal, and I cast Into the Royal on the one thing I can that he can't just sack in response, which is Psi, and I draw I think I draw Disallow, and that is it. Lose game 2, kind of expected after that start anyway, and we are on to game 3, which will be coming up in a separate video. Hope you enjoyed that one, guys. Stay tuned.